And that means that Rest in Peace is probably looming.
Possibly. Let's take a look. Jacob Martin in his sideboard has access to 1 Source to Plowshares, 1 Sword of Fire and Ice, 2 Detention Sphere, 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Vendilion Click, 3 Rest in Peace.
There they are.
3 Rip and 4 Meddling Mage.
Mage is good too.
Yeah, the Meddling Mage is actually a pretty big deal as well.
Paul is going to start by casting a Careful Study off the Cephalid Coliseum, so it goes down to 19. Looks like he may have kept 7 cards. Now, of course, the Dredge deck does mulligan quite a bit. You would know. I know you've played Dredge quite a bit in Legacy.
I sure have. Been playing a lot of it recently, actually, since the Legacy cards suddenly got cheap on Moto.
Oh, okay.
I've been playing a lot of Dredge on Magic Online. But yes, we mentioned this is game 3. This is actually an opportunity for the Dredge player to be on the play in a post-board game, which is huge.
Yes.
You don't always get turn 2s when you're on the draw. So there's a real opportunity for Paul to kind of get in under a Rest in Peace.
Now, it's not the best start I've ever seen because he's only dredging a Gargari Thug.
True.
But he is dredging, which is important. And he's found a Narcomoeba. So Narcomoeba looks like it's going to come in. You're going to see the spotter there. A little assistance, make sure that we can see the cards that are kind of looming in the graveyard. There's also a Faithless looting down there, and Bridge from below is discarded a Careful Study. So don't want to forget that Narcomoeba trigger, and it looks like that one is in. Here is a land. It's a gemstone mine. So 3 counters will be placed on that. And let's see if he can really get moving here, because one card that does actually look like Paul has in his hands is an Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's not one that I have seen before.
Yeah, me either.
Obviously, in preparation for Rest in Peace.
Yep.
Not the easiest card to cast.
Yep.
Dredge does not have a lot of land, and in fact, 4 of its lands are Cephalid Coliseums, which are completely busted within the Dredge engine, so you can't cut them.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, so actually getting black and green mana at the same time to cast an Abrupt Decay, a pretty tall order. Taller than I think I would be the happy attempting. But I would be really excited to see this card in action. I said that. I would not be excited to see a Rest in Peace. Dredge Solidarity. I have my horse here.
Is it impossible to beat Rest in Peace, or is it just like really hard?
It's real hard. Basically, you can therapy it.
Okay.
Just turn 1 therapy name Rip.
Okay.
I do that a lot against Blue-White Red Delver and against Miracles. You can let it resolve and then Nature's Claim it.
Okay, sure.
Basically, if you make any sort of commitment to actually starting to dredge, put things in the graveyard, start dredging them back, dump some cards, activate a Coliseum, whatever, and then Rest in Peace shows up, the game's over.
Gotcha.
So we saw Paul kind of show a little bit of restraint there, actually, just play the land and passed. Not going to go ahead and fire off a main phase Coliseum, go nuts, and then get hit by Rest in Peace.
Well, not enough cards. That's the problem. Only 5 in the graveyard.
Sure.
He's got a little work to do.
Possibly there were other options. I think is that a Conspiracy Breakthrough in his hand?
I believe that's what that is.
Yeah. So could have gone nuts here.
Yes.
I think. But he's going to basically chose not to because of the Abrupt Decay in his hand, I believe.
I think the plan is to go nuts next turn.
Yes.
Because obviously, Abrupt Decay is a card he cannot cast yet, but what he can do is because he has a 3rd land in his hand, he's got another Coliseum, is he can cast Breakthrough for 0, draw 4, discard the whole grip, bust Coliseum, hopefully kill him, I think is the plan. Or at least set up a graveyard that's so good and then therapy a bunch. Then you get some zombies in play, and then it's too much for Jacob to overcome.
Yep.
Jacob is searching for a Batter Skull, however, so that kind of blows up that plan a little bit.
Well, sort of. That's pretty slow at this stage.
Yeah, I guess he would therapy that too.
Yeah.
So.
Jacob's tap low. It is Force of Will or Bust here. I guess, well, this is a Delver deck. This is not Miracles, so Daze certainly a looming issue as well.
Yeah, that's real. Daze is definitely real.
So,
but
I'm excited to see some Dredge.
Yeah, I mean, the white spell that was cast is not Rest in Peace.
No.
Stoneforge Mystic is actually pretty good against Dredge, I think, but it's not Rest in Peace.
It's slower than you'd like, but yeah, it's your best threat out of Blue Red Delver. I said that, actually, Lavamancer is probably better.
Ooh, sure. I can see that. That card feels like it doesn't get enough play.
That's probably true.
Let's take a draw here. Hargrove draws a Stinkweed in. That's pretty good. We need some dredgers here.
So is going to play that 2nd Coliseum and can break through and just dump his hand. He doesn't actually get to dredge any if he breakthroughs, but I think he's probably okay with that.
Going to start by bashing.
Okay. That's an interesting attack, actually, because there is a Flamekin Zealot in Paul Hargrove's main deck. It's possible that he boarded it out. I typically board out Flamekin Zealot in these matchups, in fair matchups, so it's possible that it's just not there anymore. But if it were, I would expect Paul to be more inclined to try all of these shenanigans in his pre-combat main.
Sure. He's going to go looting. So I'm discard a couple of cards. There is a bridge. Let's see what the next one's going to be. That's the imp, I think. Yep.
Certainly one wants to get a dredger in there. Okay. And that's his turn. So giving Jacob at least one more opportunity to find something busted. Going to reveal a ponder off of the delvers. So
Just trying to flip that.
actually, it looked like Paul said hold up. So I'm not sure what the. No, okay.
Maybe he is displeased that Delver's flipping.
Well, I would be.
Get used to it, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
You're lucky it didn't happen the last turn.
Yep. And yeah, that's. I don't know how I feel about that faithless looting from Paul. Like, I think you've just got to try something here.
Unless we were wrong about the card. But I'm pretty sure that those are breakthroughs. They're just different art breakthroughs.
Yeah, I'm not positive, but that is certainly not the breakthrough that I know and love.
Yes.
I'm much more a fan of the torment, like, distraught, bearded old man breakthrough.
Yeah. And our Twitter followers and everyone who is watching is confirming that it is breakthrough. So I'm a little surprised that he didn't just kind of go for broke. I mean, it is an all-in approach, but the more draw steps you give your opponent, the closer they get to rest in peace.
Absolutely.
And if he had rest in peace, I promise you he would have cast it on turn 2.
Mm-hmm. Likely, well, so that is absolutely true of rest in peace. That is less true of meddling mage.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
think if you have Stoneforge and meddling mage on turn 2, you would rather just get the Stoneforge in play.
Yeah, I agree.
But seeing these Colosseums, well, I said that. Yeah, meddling mage is maybe too slow to beat a Colosseum at this point. You would name, I guess, Dread Return.
I believe that would be the name, yeah. Here's an attack for 3. Paul's going to go down to 14. Has already been taking some damage on those Colosseums. Of course, Colosseum, when you tap it for mana, it does deal 1 to you.
Mm-hmm. So Paul likely going to go for an upkeep Colosseum. No, okay, just going to take the draw step dredge. And we'll see what the bounty is.
Doesn't look like an Archimedes.
Jigs up on that Abrupt Decay.
Yep.
Those are there. Did we find another dredger there? That was is that a Stinkweed Imp?
I believe that's a Stinkweed Imp. Don't have a great look at it.
A Modern Master Stinkweed Imp,
yeah.
I think. One of the frustrating things as a Dredge player is in the last year or so, they have reprinted nearly every card in the Dredge deck with a different artwork.
I actually like that because I hate the old Dredge artwork. So I'm glad that there are new Dredges around.
Fair enough.
I like the new Stinkweed Imp a lot.
Okay, fair enough. Stinkweed Imp, I have less of a problem with. I did play against a Dredge player who was using Modern Master's Bridge from Belows.
Well, those are disgusting.
Well, they're harder to play against the normal Bridge from Belows, honestly, because traditional Bridge from Belows, of course, have the future sight, future shifted frame.
They stick out like a sore thumb.
Yes, it does not take a very long glance at someone's graveyard, and a Dredge graveyard can get pretty hairy.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take long to look over and say, okay, how many Bridge from Belows are we talking here?
Yep.
When Bridge from Belows are shaped the same as regular Magic cards, that gets way harder.
Yeah, it's not good. Even though they do the exact same thing. Cabal Therapy gets countered. Here are 2 zombie tokens. So long as he sequenced this correctly, that's actually pretty important that he does it correctly. Okay, so here's this. And now there's a bolt.
Okay.
Okay, so I like this because what's happening here is bridge trigger on the stack.
Yep.
From you sacrificing. I'm gonna force your thing before your bridge resolves, and then I kill my own creature, and then your bridges leave,
Yep.
and then when your bridge tries to resolve, it's not there. So it doesn't work.
So 2 of the 4 bridges gone for good for this game. The way is clear, I think, to start breakthroughing and Colosseum and just go completely nuts here. So
You have to assume with how Jacob Martin is playing this game, he's going, force of will your thing, which is Cabal Therapy, bolt my own guy. It's like, look, he doesn't have rest in peace. If he draws the next turn, that sucks. It's time to go.
he's not slow rolling it. No.
Yeah.
You do not hold Rest in Peace when you can cast Rest in Peace against Dredge. So
it is time to rock and roll.
yes. Yeah, Paul needs to shut the door because every draw step is terrifying.
So here we go.
Okay, and we're going to lead off with a breakthrough for 0. That is going to dredge up some things. We're not actually completely sure how many things because there are certainly not 4 dredgers in the graveyard right now, although you don't need them all to be there when you start.
Yep.
If you flip over a dredger while you're in the process of drawing multiple cards while resolving an effect, you do get to kind of chain them.
So the first was for 5. This one's for 6 because it's a Golgari Grave Troll.
Yeah, and hitting a troll is huge.
Yep.
I see a thug, so...
That's going to go to the hand. What's the next one going to be? He's done 2 of 4. He's going to analyze the graveyard.
Yeah, and there's another troll as well, so we can go deep.
That's 3. That's 6 more.
Yeah, and I am strongly starting to suspect that that Paul has boarded out his Flamekin Zealot.
Yeah, I think that kills off the board.
Yeah.
I think it's like, value you out with Icarid and just kind of grind you down. And, hopefully what I'm doing is just better than what you're doing. So that was 6 more. There's a Stinkweed there. Not sure if there's another Thug or not. Or excuse me, another Grave Troll.
So I wonder if we saw Paul kind of shake it off, think, okay, what now? What now?
Yep.
I wonder if the concern is like, how deep can I go without decking myself? You can't actually deck yourself by dredging, because if there is fewer cards in your library than what the dredge is required, you just can't do it.
You just can't dredge, yeah.
But you can get real close and run yourself out of relevant action and then expose yourself to rest in peace, even more so. So the consideration for Paul may be like, can I hold off a little bit? And if there's not something relevant for him to be doing in his main phase, for example, Dread returning a Flamekin Zealot.
Yep.
He only has the 1 Dread return in his main deck. So let's see. Yeah, he has 1 Dread return, and then 1 Flamekin Zealot and 1 Elish Norn as potential targets. So possible that he actually just boarded those 3 cards out to make room for these Abrupt Decays.
I wouldn't be surprised if that little package is gone.
Yeah. Which means basically what he is looking to do here is turn over a bunch of cards to find Icarids.
Yep. And he's already found at least 1.
The unfortunate thing for Paul is that Batterskull messes with that plan a lot, because Icarids on their own are not that impressive.
Yep.
What you actually want to be doing is bringing back a bunch of Icarids, letting them all die, whether by just going and ending the turn or sacrificing them to various therapies, shredding your opponent's hand, and then getting a bunch of bridge triggers, getting 8, 12 zombies or whatever, and then doing it again next turn. Then you're so far ahead, you're in fine shape.
Yep.
At any point, once Paul passes the turn, unless Jacob untap, as long as Jacob has 3 mana open, he can bounce his Batterskull, leave a 0/0 germ in play. That germ will die.
Aha, that kills the bridges.
Yes.
It's almost like you've played against this deck before,
Yes,
or played with it before.
Yeah, a few times. I know you have as well. So I know.
It was a long time ago. It was in Extended too, which is like a foreign word to some of the people.
That is true.
Who are watching the broadcast.
Yes, it was a strange backward form of Magic that we played back during the Carter administration.
9th place on Breakers at a Grand Prix with that deck. It was sweet though. Dredging was great.
Dredge is therapeutic in a weird way. I'm a huge Dredge fan. I know a lot of people are not.
I liked it a lot then. I really did.
Yeah. Dredge gets the reputation of being not Magic.
Yep.
And I think that is I think a lot of decks that are iconic unfair decks get that reputation because like there's just such a steep learning curve.
Yep.
Your average mid-range deck, someone who is not familiar with the cards in it can pick it up, read the cards in it, and play it.
Yep.
Dredge, not so much.
It's different.
Yeah.
What you're doing is, you're playing Magic, but you're not really playing Magic.
The idea is to not play Magic. It's one of those things where if things go according to plan, you just murder them, and then you're fine. But in practice, you actually do end up having to make a lot of combat decisions. Yeah, when your opponent does interact, you lead off with a careful study to get things started. They spell pierce it. 2 turns later, they've got a Stoneforge Mystic in play. They force your next thing. They swords your Icarid, your whatever. Like interaction happens, and when you actually start having to bait things out, deal with limited resources, eke out a win with 2 zombies and a Putrid Imp. Those situations come up a lot.
Yeah.
If you interact with Dredge a token amount, Dredge is a lot fairer than I think a lot of people seem to think.
And they made it, when Dredge initially kind of hit the scene, when Frigrid was a deck, back in, let's go with 2. Let's say 2000. Yeah, actually, I'm pretty positive. 2006 was when Mike Crum won that Grand Prix.
Yep.
Yeah, people couldn't interact with the deck. The interaction just wasn't good enough. And they actually had to print hate cards that were completely absurd against the mechanic because it was, pretty resilient You know, the hate card that people would go to is like Withered Wretch, which you would think would be pretty good, but it was not good enough.
It was very slow.
Yeah.
In that extended, I believe you had access to Planar Void out of Urza Saga.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, so that one was big. You did not yet have access to Leyline of the Void, I don't think. That was,
not yet.
That was still like, you know, a season away or something like that.
I'll just never forget how that Grand Prix took people by storm. So much, in fact, that when Jerry Thompson was paired against William Postlethwaite, Billy P as he is known, I believe it was in round 5 of the Grand Prix, they were both playing dredge, and they said, you want to draw? And they just said, let's draw, because there's no way anyone in the draw bracket can beat us. And they both ended up having very nice tournaments.
Fair enough. All right, so we have seen, we saw Paul go through most of his deck here, got all of his Narcomoebas into play, and is now firing off therapies. So not sure actually what he named with that first one, whatever it was he missed, and saw the last card in hand was Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah,
so,
he hit the second time.
Yeah, not hard to do.
Yeah.
The second time's kind of cheating.
Ish.
Yeah.
Looks like we're going to get some more zombies out here. It looks like we're also maybe going to get a Coliseum activation. Yep, so here this goes. So it's time to get a little bit deeper. Now, of course, you have to be careful about decking yourself, but a Grave Troll is going to come in. So that means 6 cards are going to be turned over.
Yeah, so assuming that there is no Dread Return victory in play anymore, then the reason to go for this main deck would be to turn up the last bridges and still get some triggers out of that last Narcomoeba.
Yep.
Because again, once you pass the turn, your bridges are gone. For all practical purposes.
Now, one thing you may have noticed there, is Paul grabbed his deck to dredge 6 again to see how many cards he had left.
Yep.
And then he put it back down. And he was like, I don't have very many cards left.
Let's not do this.
Yeah, so let's slow down a little bit here. So likely he has under 10 cards in his deck now. And so he's going to sacrifice.
And it looks like there is a Dread Return. There we go.
So he is going to sacrifice 2 zombies and Narcomoeba, which means he's going to get 2 zombies back for the 2 bridge triggers.
So those will happen first.
And then he wants to Dread Return his Elish Norn.
Okay, so did actually have the package in. Boarded out Flamekin Zealot.
Yep.
Figures in this matchup, emptying their hand by casting all your therapies and then putting Elish Norn into play, pretty much just as good.
What's important here, of course, is that you remember all these triggers and do everything appropriately. That's the key.
Yeah, and Paul being pretty deliberate with this turn. This was a big turn. A lot of things happened, but he was very careful, and I think you kind of see him. Before he made an action, he was like, hold up, this is what I want to do, right?
Yep.
And that's something you have to do when you're going for these huge dredge turns.
Now this sword comes into play. It's going to kill it flipped Delver. So now the 2 bridges in Paul's graveyard got to go.
Yep, they're gone.
And I don't know if he grabbed them yet, because you see the Dread Return's been removed from the game from flashback. So we got to make sure that those 2 bridges that are in his graveyard are gone.
And I think it looks like our spotter is making sure of that.
There we go.
So yes, those will go. That is just a 2/2 germ, which is not so impressive. The one thing the big problem with going off and casting all these therapies is you cannot therapy the top card of their library.
Accurate.
And there are some things that could cause trouble. Rest in Peace, no longer one of those things.
No, he's dodged that bullet.
We don't really care about Rest in Peace anymore. But an answer to Elish Norn would be a pretty big problem because 8 goblins, I don't know why I said 8 goblins. I guess it adds up to the same. 4 zombies.
Sure.
4 zombies is no match for a 4/4 germ, a proper Batterskull.
True. And we could, realistically, let's say a sword comes rolling on the top. You get that Elish Norn off the table. You got this Batterskull back on defense. That's a 4/4. You got no interest in attacking.
No.
The bridges are gone. There are no Narcomoebas coming. And we know that Paul's deck is real small.
Yes.
So we could be in a decking situation, but he's got to draw. He's got to draw swords.
Yes. Got to be swords. He only has 3 land in play. So ordinarily, Jace would do the same thing.
Yep.
But you would need to have the 4th land in play. You would also need to have Jace in your library, which I don't necessarily think he would want.
That is unlikely, especially with a blue-red Delver deck. So I do see some Icarids coming back to play. How about 4 of them? Typically 3/1s with haste. They're 5/3s right now.
Yep. Yeah, now Icarid, again, in this universe where Jacob gets the Elish Norn out of play, honestly, 4 attacking Icarids might raise a Batterskull just fine.
Yep. And if we take a look at the math here, we say that the largest creature is Icarid. So that's a 5/3 that's blocked by Batterskull. So Batterskull is going to gain 4 life. Or actually going to gain 2 life, excuse me. So it goes up to 19. Yeah, and that's going to do it because it's going to be a lethal attack for 5, 10, 15. Plus 4 is just 19 alone from the Icarids plus Elish Norn. You throw in those zombies, that's
extra 16.
That's an extra 16. That's going to do it, my friends. So Paul Hargrove, and you can tell he is pretty happy to get out of this one alive.
Yeah.
He wanted to win this one pretty bad. You can tell this is a guy who wants to make top 8 with the dredge deck.
Well,
he wins 2-1.
he is.